What's up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in tonight. I've got Mr. Robert Mason from Warrant here with me tonight. How you doing, Robert?
Pretty well. How are you?
Man, just another day here in quarantine, so they all just kind of start blending together after that first week, kind of.
We're in lockdown, right? Exactly. What is it? Slimmer Day or whatever day. It ends with AY. I don't know.
It's 2020 part 2 is what it is. That's that's what's going on right now.
The end's got to be not too far away.
Yeah, there is light at the end of the tunnel with everything that's coming out right now and all that. So hopefully we'll be able to get back out there and play some gigs sometime soon. So,
well, yeah. I mean, the Warrant guys have a bunch of shows at least proposed and planned, but we'll see. You never know what's going to happen. I'd love to make the best of the third and fourth quarters this year and do some good work. Get back out on airplanes and stay in hotels and big loud rock stages and have people enjoy themselves. I mean, it's about time for that.
Absolutely. What are things like out in Arizona right now?
Well, we had a hell of a windstorm this evening. I don't know, out of nowhere, but honestly, I live a little bit north of the city, so out of the city center, so to speak, and it's a little more relaxed. I mean, you do your diligence and you mask up, and I don't travel or go out too much anyway. I mean, I like where I live, and the whole thing about traveling so much is I was social distancing on the weekdays anyway, like pretty much. I get home and you want to hang out and just do your own thing, but yeah, it's been weird. Obviously, businesses have been hit really hard, and law enforcement, first responders, everybody like that, all the essential people, hospital workers. That's just they're still doing all the really hard work. I've just been sitting for a long time, and I don't do that very well. So made a side project record last year into this year, and doing everything else I can. I did actually just jump out to LA and back to film another bit of an Access TV show that I've done a bunch of seasons of.
Okay.
So I did that Monday and yesterday. So I just got back last night.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you recorded a side project album. Can you give us a little details on that?
It's a band called The End Machine. It's me, Jeff Pilsen, George Lynch, and the first go round was Mick Brown. This last record, since Mick is retired, we grabbed his brother Steve, who's a great drummer and really good background as well. So we made that record at Jeff's studio in Northern California. We're in Middle California, just north of LA. Over the past few months, a bunch of Zoom meetings with George, Jeff, and I writing songs, which was an interesting process. For the first time ever, like sitting with the three of us virtually, throwing ideas around. They normally do a lot of instrumental stuff and kind of overwrite and then turn things into me, and I'll have a bunch of lyrics and a bunch of melody ideas. And I would just, on the first End Machine record, I just put them together with Jeff in the studio, one a day, from having nothing except an instrumental track to having finished vocals, backgrounds, everything by the end of a business day.
Okay, nice.
We just keep it going with strong coffee. This time around, since we were all distanced and we couldn't really do that, as they got instrumental ideas together, we would just sit on, I'd sit with them for a spell and just figure out what I'm going to do. We'd all get together, and honestly, I would throw all my melody and lyric ideas up, send them text messages, or we'd all share them one way or the other, and we'd hash through it and kind of figure out ahead of the recording time where we wanted to be, so that when I got there, I could knock out 3-5 songs at a clip, 2 a day sometimes, and just
nice.
Get them done in just a couple of short sessions, because it took me traveling out to Jeff's studio in California and holing up and everybody making sure they're COVID free and safe, and then doing it the right way. So we did that, and we managed to shoot 2 videos a couple of weeks ago too. So
nice, very cool. Is any of this music out yet, or is there any timeline that you can give on that?
There was a single that was released last Friday.
Okay,
just a few days ago, called Blood and Money, and the record will be called Phase 2, and that will be out April 9th. Frontiers Records. Thank you, Frontiers Records, for giving me something to do last year.
Absolutely. Everybody's putting records out on Frontiers right now. They're killing it with the rock and roll game.
they're good guys. They know what they want, and they're really direct. They left the End Machine project the first time around a lot of leeway just to kind of find out what we wanted to do, because we did it. You know, they had the idea. I guess George had a sort of a deal in place. He was not to do another like solo record or anything like that. And they got Jeff involved, they got me involved, they got Mick involved, and they were like, well, element wise, this is Lynch Mob with Jeff Pilsen, or it's Dokken with me, but it's neither. It's, you know, so we really purpose built the End Machine to be a different animal and went a little way outside the first record. I mean, you know, it's still at its core of whatever you want to call it, blues, there's rock, it's melodic, you know, it's that sort of thing. And the DNA is there from Dokken, the DNA is there from Lynch Mob and from everything that we've all collectively done and been influenced by. But I think on the second record, we made a more concerted effort to not be afraid of the Dokken and Lynch Mob thing and say, look, we have fans that, you know, perhaps want a little closure or want to hear something from that. We're not going to be so afraid of riff-based stuff that George comes up with where, you know, we'd say, ooh, that's, you know, it's kind of Dokken-y a little bit, but then, you know, we kind of made our peace with that after the first record. So this new record, Phase 2 record, harkens back to that a little bit without making it dated or cheesy, we think. And, you know, to us, we hear everything. We, you know, micromanage everything, and you just have no activity, and you hear like, well, but that's so close to this other riff, or this other thing. I'm like, George just plays the way he does. He's gonna play that way. It's gonna sound like that.
That's exactly what I was sitting here thinking. Is he or you guys, you know, I get these sentiment of, you know, trying to make something fresh and, you know, not making it exactly like something you guys have done before, but at the same time, it's George Lynch and he plays a certain way. It's going to sound like George Lynch playing guitar.
And we let him go nuts. We let him go nuts on solos this time around and like let him fly. But we had like I said, a concerted effort to put like big choruses in, and, you know, kind of the elements that made Dokken great. It was like really strong, simple melodies, cool hooks that would, you know, repeat. You'd wrap your head around them. You knew when they were coming around, and it gave you comfort. I think there's a familiarity with that thing, not to make it a copy of it by any means, because you really didn't do that. And I mean, just having me involved, it's not going to sound like Dokken. It just isn't. It's not going to sound really like Lynch Mob because we have Jeff Pilsen involved, who's a different cat. Jeff is so musical. He's got an arrangement mind. He and I get on in the studio like two sides of the same brain. It's really pretty cool. So we spent a lot of time together tracking and arranging the final arrangement with vocals and, you know, backgrounds and stuff like that. Jeff's a great singer, and he's got all that. So we really put this record together pretty quickly, actually, when you think about it, amidst all of the, you know, the mayhem and the what are we gonna do? You know, I'm not gonna be on stage this year. Might as well write a record. So we're kind of proud of it. I mean, I'm really pretty proud of the way it turned out. Fans are digging it so far, and the Blood and Money single has a long guitar solo in it. I mean, I could go out, you know, go out to lunch, read a book, you know, and it's kind of, we didn't know how people were going to take that, but it really does. It's been so favorably reviewed. It's on YouTube. It's on Frontier's YouTube channel. It's kind of cool. You know, it's kind of a stabby, quick vocal, but I tried to keep melodies simple and just make them powerful as possible.
That's awesome. So how would you compare working with George Lynch on this stuff today compared to working with him back in the day on the Lynch Mob stuff in the 90s?
Let's see. It's not as crazy. It's not as manic. It's not the big record company machine. You know, I mean, we had the big monster 7-figure deal on Elektra back in the day that was kind of, I guess, just an extension of the Dokken deal, if I think about it. You know, when I joined Lynch Mob to do that record in 91 and then came out in 92, you know, the world's different. A lot of stuff's different. Technology's different. There's so many great advantages now. But George will still plug into an amp, and everybody's older and hopefully wiser, but it still gives you the same feeling. So I don't know that it's entirely different. You know, for better or for worse, it's a lot of the same things.
That's awesome.
I think there's probably a little less tension. We're probably just, like I said, the older and hopefully wiser element kicks in. And you're just kind of, oh man, I know you, you know me. We both know each other's quirks pretty well by now. Let's just, have as much fun as possible. And I think we really did.
That's awesome. So you mentioned Jeff Pilsen is in this project, and if I'm correct, the last Warrant record, Jeff was the producer on that. Uh, so how would you compare working with an in a band like that compared to, being with Warrant and him being the producer in the situation?
Well, he would put his producer hat, I liken them to referees meet psychotherapists, producers. They're kind of, they have the overall vision in their head, but then they're also there with the striped shirt and the whistle. You
Yeah.
know, call them out when something goes bananas or goes too far off the rails. He had to do a little of that. Obviously, he was producing, not writing or anything for the Warrant record. He did our Louder, Harder, Faster record. That was kind of the thing. I've known Jeff since shortly after I was in Lynch Mob and met George. So I've known him all those years. And we're always friendly, but we were never closer friends, but just because of the way the business goes. And I always had great things to say about him, and I hope likewise, but we really got to get inside each other's heads and pockets a little bit, on the Warrant record. And I spent a ton of time in there working with him. He's got a fantastic studio. He knows gear really well. And we learned a lot. I learned a lot. We learned a lot about each other, and we got on really well. That was the impetus behind, hey, maybe we can make this side project band work, because Jeff's in Foreigner. He's the musical director of Foreigner, along with bass player, and he wears a lot of hats anyway. Produces a bunch of records for bands, through the year. Time management is a thing, it's a tough thing to do. But Jeff did a great job, I thought, with the Louder, Harder, Faster record. We had fun doing it, but it's a Warrant record, so it's got all those different, chemical composition at play of two guitar players, and then obviously all different players, except with the exception of me. So it's a whole different vibe, a whole different philosophy of a band. A lot more fun and raucous with that history that Warrant has, and Steven, who's an amazing background singer and killer drummer. So it's like it's a completely different chemical composition.
That's awesome. So I know last year Eric Turner had mentioned that there had been some seeds planted for a new album. You guys had started pushing ideas around. Is there any update you can give us on where you guys are at with that?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the short answer is 2019 was the 30th anniversary of Dirty Rotten, band's first record. So we really concentrated on that. 2020, actually September 2020, was when Cherry Pie was released. So 2020 was supposed to be 30th anniversary Cherry Pie. I'm taking it like a mulligan. We're going to make believe it never happened. And whenever we can start going out and playing, it is going to be the 30th anniversary Cherry Pie tour.
Okay.
Because in fact, they toured on that record for, a year and a half. So we have plenty of time, but I want to get back to it. As far as writing goes, we do that. We always throw ideas around. I've always got ideas. I constantly have something brewing and a backlog of just riffs and lyric ideas and melodies and stuff. Dixon's great at that. He's always got some as well. Eric's got riffs. Joey's got parts. It's takes a village, takes a Warrant to make a record. Takes a band. So, but I guess a certain element of it falls on me to have lyrical ideas and stuff. Everybody contributes, man. That's the thing. We've got 5 guys, not 4, like the End Machine thing. So it's a bigger bowl of soup.
That's awesome. So oh, sorry, go ahead.
Definite. I don't mean to cut you off. We don't have. I felt like I didn't answer your question. We didn't have definite plans, but we always have the idea that, yeah, man, we're gonna make another record. So
okay,
I would to. It'd be my 3rd with the band, so I think it'd be cool.
So, but you are getting to present like riffs and the actual musical side, just aside from lyrics, to the guys in Warrant as well, or from what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, the best idea wins. Like, those guys do the same thing. Dixon's got ideas. He'll call me. He's like, "Hey, Mason, I got this thing, and it's really skeletal, but I want it to be about this." And he's got a lyrical idea, and he might not have a complete lyrical idea, or there might not be a bridge, or might not be a verses, but not a fleshed out chorus. And then I'll zip up to his place. Historically, that's what we would do, or we'll meet, on the road somewhere and just bang out the basics of it in a hotel room somewhere.
Is that the way it was on the last record? Were you still submitting ideas on the music side, or is that something that started with the newer material?
No, it was, we did it on Rockaholic as well. I think I came to the band. Jerry got with me right away. I got in the band in, what's that, September of '08. So not too many months in, he just kind of said, "Look, man, you write songs, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." You ever thought of doing a record with us? Like, why don't we do it? And I probably, because I had been logging up material, I probably had 8 or 10 ideas, maybe 6 or 8 fleshed out as songs, demoed at my house that I brought to the band. I think the Rockaholic record, I have 4 or so that are like completely my composition. But then you bring them to the band, and those guys play the way they play. They don't play the way I play. If I had the basic idea or the core idea, finished out like arranged even like a song, several of them turned out that way, but it's not a Warrant record until, a Warrant song until those guys play on it. So I have a different approach on guitar and piano and vocal and everything than everybody else. So I think they morph and change just as songs do. Everybody interprets them their way in the studio or live when we kind of do pre-production. But yeah, I mean, I would bring Louder, Harder, Faster was something I had completely in my head over the course of a couple of weeks, I guess, on and off on the road. And I just walked into a dressing room one day. I'm like, "Hey, man, give me a guitar. This is a song. It's called Louder, Harder, Faster. I want it to be the title track, and I want it to be the first single." And they all looked at me like, "Cocky singer, asshole." And then there you go. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I mean, yeah. Dixon came up with some things. I think Life's a Song was completely, I think, Jerry on the Rockaholic record. It happens every which way. I don't consider myself an autonomous writer most of the time. I like being a catalyst, and I like collaborating.
Okay. Well, cool, man. So we'll kind of segue off of the Warrant thing for a minute. So I got introduced to you by Mr. Alex Kane from Enough's Enough and Live, Sex, and Death and Anti-Product and every other badass project that you can imagine in the world. So I want to know how.
Guys, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to know how you met Alex, if you could share that story with us.
The quick way of telling that one is Alex and I were introduced to each other when I was in New York area and he was in Chicago area by a mutual friend at Mercury Polygram in New York, a record label. And I mean, this is 1988, I think 88. So I've known him that long. This was pre-Life, Sex, and Death, 88 or 89, I guess. He had early Enough's Enough ties and writing and stuff like that. And he wasn't in the band at the time because I saw Enough's Enough on their first tour, but did not meet Alex. And then we were honestly the old school version of communication. We were like phone and pen pals, like New York guy, Chicago guy, and our mutual friend CJ at Mercury Polygram was like, "You guys, I have to introduce you to somebody. You're gonna love." One day out at dinner, she's like, "You're gonna love Alex. Alex, you're like," and same thing. So we've been talking ever since then. But it's funny, we spoke, shared demos that our bands were doing, talked a bunch on the phone, and then didn't meet until Lynch Mob was playing Florentine Gardens in LA.
Okay.
As like a club gig, and Life, Sex, and Death was brand new band on Warner. There's Warner Brothers, right? And we walked up to each other outside, and I go, "Wow, you're Alex." And he's like, "Yep." I was like, "This is going to be fun." I'm like, "Yeah, this is going to make a lot of fun." So then we ended up taking a Life, Sex, and Death out with us on a Lynch Mob theater tour before going out with Warrant that year in '92. So yeah, we had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Were you a big fan of Life, Sex, and Death back in the day?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously our friendship was instrumental in why we brought them out as our opener, and they obviously just crushed every night. It was so much fun.
Do you remember the first time?
Your incarceration several times, yes.
Do you remember the first time meeting Stanley?
It was our, you know what? I don't even think I met him that time that they played with us in LA before the records came out. I think it was probably the first day of the tour when we all joined up together. Obviously, I knew about it, knew about the videos, knew the whole thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any notable memories with Alex and Stanley from that tour that pop out when you think back to it?
Yeah, the vivid one is having a warrant for my arrest for inciting a riot in Houston.
Oh man. Can you give us a little backstory on that?
Him getting, yeah, we wanted to play longer than they were allowed, and we broke a curfew, I guess, and I didn't want to stop, and we wanted to bring them up for encores because it was their last show with us, I believe, before they peeled off for some other dates, and we were going to go to the Warrant tour subsequently. So we were in Houston, and I went too long with the show, and I said I didn't care. I said if they're taking me, they're taking everybody. And the crowd went bananas, but I didn't realize there were a lot of Houston police officers as security that night hired, moonlighting as security.
Okay.
So they called the cops in, and they tore up the backstage, and they tore up a bunch of road cases, and Alex has got a camcorder running, and the cops batted it out of their hands. They arrested my tour manager. I think Anthony got locked up.
Oh man.
I put a denim jacket on, put my hair in a hat, and walked right past the cops and went. I got shuttled back to my hotel in Life, Sex, and Death's tour bus.
That's awesome.
Just hid out until charges were dropped.
That's great. I was gonna say it looked like it worked out okay for you. You're still sitting here, so
I've been back in Houston a bunch. I'm fine with them and they're fine with me. But yeah, that was a real thing. I mean, we had just a lot of fun. Like my birthday, we were all together in Connecticut, I think at some club, and they, the LSD guys brought out a bunch of cakes and a bunch of stuff to just pummel me with during the Lynch Mob show. So that's, stage pranks are always fun.
Absolutely. Was there ever any hesitation on taking those guys out on the road from like management or anything, considering the whole being of that band?
It was odd. I think, no, we didn't really get, I mean, Elektra was still so Warner Elektra Atlantic at that time, I guess. So we were kind of encouraged to go pick an opener that we wanted for that leg that did like theaters, before.
Okay.
And I guess some of them were clubs to consider to be clubs, but like big clubs and theaters, several thousand people still at that time, which was fun. But still had that sweaty kind of club theater vibe rather than playing on bigger stages like the Warrant guys made us do, when they allowed us to be their support act. So yeah, it was a good fun time. I don't think we got backlash at all. Stanley was getting a little bit of weird press because that was a unique.
That's so awesome. Breed. Absolutely. So I want to kind of segue into one of the main reasons I brought you on here on something I personally wanted to pick your brain about. I was first exposed to you by my dad with the second Cry of Love record, Diamonds and Debris. And that's a fantastic record. And I seem to be one of the few people that when it comes to picking the two Cry of Love records, I always gravitate towards the second record with you. And, that's not a knock against the first record or anything. There were 3 very good charting singles on that record. It did fantastic, but
yeah,
absolutely.
Looking back, they're sonically different, clearly, even though Custer produced both of them. John did a wonderful job in that regard, but I think Audley took a really distinct turn and wanted the Diamonds and Debris record to be, like I said, not just next record. from this band. You know, there was a definite departure. He had a really cool, I remember him playing for me early on a bunch of stuff to vibe on, like singers and like cool records that he loves. Like, well, I want an element of Exile on Main Street on this, but an element of, you know, like Staples on this and the old Tina Turner on this. And like, you know, and it was a really cool departure for me, having really the only big major thing I had done was the Lynch Mob record, as far as releases. So, you know, it wasn't what people expected of me, I think, which is cool. I had the best time making that record.
That's awesome.
At a little studio behind a laundromat in Raleigh.
That's great. So I know you said on Todd's show that you were familiar with a lot of the guys at the label that the band was working with, but did you have any connection with the guys actually in the band prior to auditioning?
As far as that, no, just knowing the A&R guy and knowing a couple of the other people at Columbia in New York. I think my name was battered around a little when they were looking for a singer, and I maybe sang something on a little 4-track and sent it to them. And then oddly called me up and had me out among a bunch of other people. And this was 94, maybe early 94. I don't know, but I was in Arizona, went out there and we kind of gelled together. They were really uncertain on what they wanted to do. I think they had a few different options as far as singers. And I went out there for a few days and we didn't write so much as worked on a couple of songs Audley had and practiced and rehearsed some of the stuff from Brother in the you know, little rehearsal studio. And they were really uncertain about what they wanted to do, I think. And Audley just sat me down and was like, hey man, I don't think it's gonna work out. I don't know whether or not we need to keep looking or whatever it is. And I went home and I was bummed. I subsequently got the gig with Ozzy doing background vocals. And it just got to a point where I think I was in Detroit at a hotel room and Freed called me. Or I got a message that he was like from somebody, same thing, like from somebody at Columbia, he was gonna call me. He called me, he's like, man, enough time has passed. I don't want it to go too far. You're our guy, you know, do you want to be in the band? And I had been on the Ozzy tour for like 11 months. And I sat down with Sharon and said, you know, I kind of want to be a front man again. I don't want to be a background singer. You guys are wonderful to me, but is there a way we can work out a mutually agreeable exit strategy and I can go do this record? I could, you know, maybe come back or maybe not or whatever, but that's what I wasn't like abandoning them, but I think I gave them a month or two. You know, it was the mutually agreeable thing because Ozzy was on Columbia as well. So it's all the same executives. And so the way I remember it, they just said, okay, you know, finish the Ozzy thing through Donington through August. And if you get me through that, you know, yeah, you have our blessing, go ahead and make your record. So there you were.
So you say that they had that conversation with you towards the end when you originally went out there, you know, that it wasn't working out. Were you getting those vibes leading up to them?
Oh, it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't really like a negative thing. Everybody was, you know, friendly and everything. And I got on really well. I think Audley really thought really hard about what he wanted in a singer. And I don't take offense to that. And I think there were some other options, maybe some other stones left unturned, you know what I mean? Like, and he really wanted to make sure he kind of got it right. And, you know, who knows? There's a lot. I mean, it's not about thinking negatively about it. That's just exactly the way it happened. And I'm sure they went and auditioned a bunch of other people and, you know, not in a cocky way at all, but like, hey man, if they would have they would have called that person if they found them. So I just turned out to be the person that was the, you know, the fit at the time. And I thought we made a really cool record. I know I'm the Yankee and everybody else is Southerners, but you know, fit as much as I could.
So do you remember some of the songs that you originally worked on when you were out there the first time?
Wow. I think I don't even know if Audley had everything really solidly written. Did he have Fire in the Dry Grass, and then did he have Empty Castle, and God, a couple? Man, I bet I have cassettes somewhere. I haven't thought about this in 100 years.
That's awesome.
That's
This was a big record of my childhood, so this is awesome getting to pick your brain a little bit about this record.
It's funny. It's like this record, although it was at a weird time in the music business, and for us, I don't think Columbia really knew what to do marketing with us and put us out. We opened for the Allman Brothers. We opened for Cheap Trick. We played shows with like Kenny Wayne Shepherd and a couple of other bands, and we jumped around a lot. And I just think it really never got a foothold. But that's, it's not a blame thing. I'm not like that guy who looks at me and goes, oh, I'm bitter because of this, and I never got this because of somebody else's this or that. I'm like, look, man, if it would have been monstrous, it would have probably been monstrous. So there you go. I'm fiercely proud of performances on that record, and Oddly wrote, like, I didn't really write on that record. I just interpreted some stuff in my own way, and I was allowed to do that. But Oddly had a really clear vision of what he wanted, and I kind of respected that. Like, hey, man, I'm coming in at the 11th hour to do everything I can do to make these songs, to put my part on these songs, and hopefully that connects with people. It ended up on more tour buses, more musicians dig it, more people that, understand that kind of music. It didn't have the monstrous broad appeal. That's all. We're like a cult classic movie.
It's a great album. I love the album. So one song in particular I wanted to ask you about on that record is Warm River Pearl. Easily my favorite song on the record and one of my favorite songs of all time, hands down. So do you remember, the song coming to fruition? And just, can you give me any of the background on this one?
It was done in 2 parts. You know the split? Can you hear the cut?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Recorded in 2 completely different, sessions, basically settings, and spliced together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that song.
The lyrics are fantastic. That's my favorite part of the song, is the lyrics in it, man.
That's Oddly, man. He had such a good handle on that stuff, and like that, he would weave such cool, it's weird, like trippy, ambiguous, yet really cool emotive lyrics. He did a great job.
Was that a new thing for you on that record, singing somebody else's lyrics? And have you done that since then, or what's been your experience doing that?
Yes, it was. But I was the first person to sing them. It's not like singing covers. You know what I mean? Like, you look at it like, well, this is written. It's damn good. I couldn't do better than this. Like, in this construct and within the dynamic of that band, I'm the singer. Okay, cool. Neil Peart wrote the lyrics, and Geddy Lee sang them.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite song off of that album?
Gosh,
there's so many. There's no wrong answer.
I'm glad you're the one that can say that, appreciates it. Man, there are elements of Bring Me My Burden that I absolutely love, because it brought out a totally different side of me that nobody had ever heard, that I really wanted to do. And I did all the Beach Boys ooh-ahs combinations that you can barely hear, but if you really, it's like earphone candy. And if you hear the separation, like, I did multi-track Beach Boys-y kind of Brian Wilson combination, ooh, with the chord changes, and like made that was the thing that when we went to go master, we went to George Marino at Sterling Sound in New York, and actually got to be around, like, listen to some of the mastering. Like, sometimes those guys don't let bands in. Like, I remember Audley going in, and I went in for a little bit. He was in there for quite a bit, but we made those pretty fun. I mean, that had a lot of fun to me. That just let it rip, like me doing my best early 1960s Tina Turner impersonation, like, I high as I'll get out and screaming, just really, really, oh gosh, Georgia Pine,
Georgia Pine is, if
There's
it's
moments
not
in
Warm River
time
Pearl,
just
it's Georgia Pine.
yeah.
I love how, you know,
Rattlesnakes and Queens is just I love that because that's kind of like Led Zeppelin meets the Who meets Cry of Love meets the Allman Brothers meets Exile on Main Street. Like that's you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It's got all those elements to me too.
Georgia Pine, one of my favorite things about that song is how in the chorus it's like it doesn't start on the one, the vocals don't. So it's like they come in on a weird timing. It's when you're singing along with it, it throws you off every time.
Well, not me, thankfully, because I got, you know, playing those live too. Sweet Mary's Gone was fun to play live. So I ended up playing guitar in a half dozen songs in our set, and Audley had written such cool guitar parts and counterpoint parts that obviously being one guy he can't play. So he goes to me, he's like, "You want to play some of these guitar parts?" And then he showed them to me. And he's got these massive hands. He's got these chords that are like here, you know, the ones like the memes on Instagram where they show the guy with
the
that's
jazz
what I felt
chords.
like. That's what I felt like the first couple of weeks of, you know, pre-production rehearsal or whatever. That was fun to play a little bit, you know, to have a guitar rig and like being a real like 4-piece just stripped away. There's there's no fluff, nothing's wasted. And it was a real rock band. Like there were moments of lock and bond on that tour that just sound so awesome. Jason Patterson is just an amazing drummer.
That's great. So literally over the last like 10 plus years or however long YouTube has been a thing, I've tried finding footage from that tour and I've never been able to find a single video of the lineup of Cry of Love live with you on vocals.
There's some stuff.
I'll have to get you to link me up to some of it.
Yeah, I have audio on CD that a fan sent me, like a board tape or like a radio station promotion thing. There was one in Peoria, Illinois. If you look up Peoria, Illinois, there's a Cry of Love, and it might even be black and white. We did a bunch of Cheap Trick dates, but I don't even think they got recorded.
Okay. What was the set list like? Were you guys doing any of the material off Brother, or were you sticking solely? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did, what did we do? You know, obviously Peace Pipe, but like Too Cold in Winter. We did a few.
Did you have a favorite song to sing off that first record?
Wow. Honestly,
it's the same thing. There's really no wrong answer off of that one either.
I'm a huge Free and Humble Pie fans and the Who and stuff like that. So for me, like that stripped down thing, like Brother had that element of, oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, there's just no right answer. Honestly, Kelly, I mean, like I said, Kelly did a fantastic job. Custer did an amazing job with that first record. It sounds completely different than our record, but I loved it nevertheless.
Did you get to see the band on their first tour on that album?
Yeah, I saw the Cat Club in New York.
How was the gig? Any memories from that stick out?
It was very loud.
Did you get to meet any of the guys that night?
No, it's funny. I went and I bailed. I guess I had somewhere to go. I just, you know, Cat Club was kind of weird.
Okay.
14th Street, Manhattan. Super loud, just big, not big at all.
Nice.
But I mean, it seems kind of weird. I saw Cry. I love the same place I first saw Motorhead, so it's just really weird.
That's awesome. So was there ever a conversation like with the band that, you know, that it was kind of taking a break or that it was over, or did it just kind of fizzle out, or what really happened?
I think Audley and I had a chat and we saw it winding down and just thought, man, we could slug it out on the road, not really getting anywhere or making any money, not having that. I'm not blaming the label for not supporting, because they, you know, supported it, but there really wasn't that big machine tour support. And as I stated earlier, I don't really think they knew what to do with us, knew where to put us and how to market it correctly. for the time, and not even to their detriment. I mean, you know, we made a solid record. We played for a while, and it was just one of those things that didn't work out. You know, didn't have any longevity. Maybe they took too much time between singers, and you know, you can Monday morning this thing all day long. But
The
not
not the
in,
90s were a weird time as far as, you know, for that type of rock music.
yeah, it's somewhat forgotten that there was it was there was distinct marketing for certain styles of music and certain trends that were on the up. And if you weren't one of those, you got lost in the sauce.
Absolutely. I've always said that if that first Cry of Love record would have came out in like 74, 75, they'd have probably been the biggest fucking band in the world.
Well, and then if my aunt had testicles, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Like you said, we can Monday morning it all day, but you do well. Like we said though, you take the '90s into account. There was a narrative with the whole grunge music and all that, and if you weren't on it, you kind of did get forgotten about. And it happened to plenty of other bands around that time as well, regardless of what the genre was. One of my favorite bands, King's X, and you know. Another, like you mentioned, this how the second Cry of Love album seems to be a musician's album. Well, King's X is the musician's band. If you know the people who like them, it's always musicians that you find that like those guys.
Yeah, like Doug and Ty used to come out every time we were down in Texas with Lynch Mob, because everybody loves George, and you know I remember seeing those guys around, and I knew about them way before that. A largely unappreciated band.
Yeah,
And still all great musicians, you know.
absolutely. They're teasing everybody with new albums, so we'll see. I've been waiting for it since 2008 now, so.
Yeah, man, who knows? I see Doug every once in a while in California. He's a great guy.
That's great. Have you got to jam with him before?
A few times through the years, yeah. Once with George, it's pretty cool.
Where was that at with George?
Probably NAMM show, one of the company, corporate company parties, one of the music company parties.
Are you a big fan of KXL?
Yeah, I mean, I like Ray as a friend, like a friend, not just a professional friend. Like he's a really good guy. He's amazing talent, and we're good. We're buds. Obviously, I know George 30 years, and I know Doug a long, long time too. It's really cool. It's different. It's it might not be for everybody, but George has got a lot going on.
Yeah, he's
not a record apparently.
He's taking care of business.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. I really appreciate you coming on here, especially letting me pick in your brain about that second Cry of Love record. I know if I could go back and tell my 10-year-old self that I was going to get to ask you about all those songs that I couldn't find anything about when I was that age getting exposed to it, that would have been a good day. So I really appreciate you coming on here and taking some time to hang out with me.
Wow.
That's great. Well, Robert, thank you so much.
That's a lie.
What do you got coming up here in the near future immediately?
Well, like I said, the second End Machine record, phase 2, comes out April 9th.
Okay.
I just shot another season of a show called Top 10 Revealed on Access TV, and that's going to air probably April, May, June. I've done that, I think, four seasons of that. It's always fun, counting down top 10 lists and having minutia to talk about and say witty stuff on TV. I'm just always kind of trying to write, ever hopeful that, I come up with something that somebody wants to hear. I may surprise somebody someday and do something that's a complete departure, but it's not, it's not fully baked yet. We're still mixing the ingredients.
Absolutely.
Alex and I are doing a little writing together, so some of that might end up on an Enough's Enough record in the future. We don't know about that.
Okay.
I love Chip. Like, we've known each other since 90 or 91.
Okay, nice.
First go around of Enough's Enough. So he and I have a lot of time spent together, and we have a pretty good friendship going. I know I would love to put something together with Alex. We've been talking about it forever. So maybe now that he's doing another Enough's Enough record, eventually they're talking about it. Maybe we'll do something like that. I don't know.
Well, that's awesome. I just had Chip on here about a week ago, and he said that he's hoping that him and Donnie can write some songs together for this new Enough's Enough record. So
I think everybody who's an Enough's Enough fan and knows a little bit about their catalog and their tumultuous relationship hopes for that. Like, I would love to see that. Donnie's a really talented guy.
absolutely, man. It's
Great writer. Like,
yeah,
right.
one of the best pop rock songwriters ever, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. I definitely look forward to hearing some music from you and Alex and Chip if he's in the mix as well. So that'll be very cool.
Yeah, see how it goes. You know, we'll try, and if it's something they really dig, I'd love to be part of it.
That's cool. I'll text Chip as soon as we get off here and say, get to making that music with Alex right now.
I think we're going to send him something over the next week or so.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, cool. Whenever you're.
The other day we were having a distanced chat about that very thing, and I was sitting at this very piano, and he had one of my guitars on, and I think we came up with something. So
that's awesome. Let's say Alex is vaccinated now. You can have him cough all over you. Or you can cough. No, you can cough on him. That's what it is. Now that he's got the vaccine, you can cough on him.
Exactly right. Yeah. Who wears whose mask to protect who? I forget.
I don't know. It changes every week. So we'll see.
I got 2 COVID tests over the past 3 days, so I had to get them for the TV show. So
nice.
I'm fine.
Which ones did you take? The finger prick, nose, mouth, or?
Well, they were up the nostrils for those things. They were not messing around, make my eyes water.
Yeah, I haven't done the nostril one yet, but when we did the Christmas Expo in Florida this past December, we all had to take tests daily, and it was the finger prick test, which was actually super convenient because I was worried the whole way getting down there, that they were going to be shoving that foot-long ruler up your nose to check.
Yeah, it doesn't really have to go that far. Although I'm telling you, there's no lie, it made my eyes water. It felt like it was touching my brain, but yeah.
That's awesome. Well, at least you're safe and you got to take care of business, so that's all that matters. So
yeah, that's what we do for everybody. I mean, once again, I really appreciate the invite and and us being able to rap about stuff. I hadn't thought about some of those Cry Love things in an awful long time. It's really cool. Good memory jog.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to go find that soundboard that you were the mix you were talking about. Because like I said, for literally like 10 plus years, I have not been able to find any live footage with you with the band.
I think it's Sweet Mary's Gone. There's another song, but it could be. Oh, I don't remember. I'm sorry that I don't. But
I'll take whatever they give me.
Peoria, Illinois, and it would have been August or September of what's that? 97.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
96,
yeah. 97
like
was when the record came.
I was only 13. There you
go. Perfect. I was 2. So very cool.
Right, cool.
Robert, me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air, but thank you so much for coming on here and hanging out with me. I will see everybody back here on Friday with Mr. Mark Tornillo from Accept. So looking forward to that.
Oh, Jersey boy. Now that's a guy. He and I go even farther back than Alex Kane.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'll ask him about that'll give me something to ask him about when he's on here. I asked him about when he met Robert Mason. So there we go.
He's a good guy. He's a really good guy.
Very cool. I haven't met him yet, so it'll be my first time.
Everybody had a good time. All your watchers there, and hello Facebook Live.
Well, very cool, dude. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air. Thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you back here on Friday.